Shut up and sit down.
It's where the big boys play. SICW.
And what's that other guy's name? The Russian or the German or whatever he's supposed to be?
He's got a weird name.
Man, that's some throat singing from Australia there, Bobby.
Oh, that's not Elvis throat, dude.
Hey, what happens in the locker room stays there, all right? All right. Welcome to Screw Reek Podcast, everybody. Episode 100 and something. I think 101, 102, something like that. I don't.
I think it should be 102. You got to be proud of this, man. It's 102 episodes. I know a lot of podcasts out there that one has more podcast actual episodes than we do, but we have more subscribers and more of a following. So
Well, that's just because we have better fans.
Yep.
That could be too.
Speaking of better fans, we've dropped a few subscribers and we need you guys to subscribe back to us. I mean, we kind of expected it after jumping 600 in a couple weeks. We expected a little bit to fall off, but we need to come roaring back so we can start increasing. So
it seems that's what happens on YouTube. You might gain 15 subscribers one week, and then the next week 3 of them fall off. But happens to my account all the time, so I don't really pay attention to that. I just keep putting out more videos and hoping they pop off. And that's what we do here at the Squared Ring Podcast as well. So episode 102. It's going to be kind of different. We're not going to talk a whole lot about the big, federations or, AEW or TNA. I know TNA did have a pay-per-view this weekend, but I did not catch it. I heard that it was a good one to watch, though. And so was NXT was a good one to watch. So I need to find some time and break away and watch some of those. But did catch Raw last night. I would say mid-afternoon, because for everyone in the States, it started at 2 o'clock, which I just want to talk about that for a second. The next couple weeks, it's going to be the time is going to be a little janky. What do you guys think about that? Most people, set their schedules for 8 o'clock it's 7 o'clock now, ain't it? That it comes on.
well, I think the nature of Netflix, it's not going to hurt them too much.
Well, that's the beauty of it is, if you're used to watching Raw at 7 o'clock and it aired at 2 o'clock, you could still watch it at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt them too much. I mean, although tickets-wise, according to Forbes, they only had 8,000 people, 8,000 tickets. So that might hurt them a little bit, but they're not hurting for money anyway. So
that could also be for some online discussions I know Texan and I were involved in, talking about how expensive tickets have gotten.
Yeah, so
we got backlash coming to the area here soon.
Yeah.
And holy cow.
Yeah. Now, granted, I have not seen right now. Really, all you can see is the package deals that they offer. But if the tickets are around the same price that these package deals, I was looking, through all the zones, and it's like $1,000 to sit on the floor. And I remember, this is going to date me, but back when I was about 18 or 19, when WWF used to come to town / WWE, I used to try to get only 4 seats, and we're talking about $100 or so, and you were guaranteed to be on the floor. And I remember, growing up, even younger than that, being able to sit in the aisle where they would, run down from the stage to the ring. We always tried to get floor seats. It's like the best, if not the floor, the section right above, anything but the nosebleeds, because when you're in the nosebleeds, you got those lights and everything that just shine bright. Even AEW now, the way they have it set up, if you're in certain spots or whatever stadium they're in, Well, AEW is not in a stadium, but depending on where you are, you can't see a damn thing because the lights are so bright. But
Well, I have the tickets right here on section 121. The 10s, they are, was that 400 and something a piece?
yeah, the nosebleeds for this thing are in the hundreds. It's like
Yeah, here's the
119 or 120.
Well, that's what, like, if I go to one of the shows, I'm buying a minimum of 4 tickets.
Right. And that's what I was thinking too. And that's what I was looking at. Even though my family are basically all grown up and only my oldest is interested in wrestling, so it would be like 3 tickets, maybe 4 if we bring the granddaughter. But there's no way that people can drop $400 or $500 just on the tickets, and then you still got to pay for parking, you got to pay for the food, and of course they're going to want something in the in the stands, some sort of action figure or something. So you're talking $650. It's crazy.
Well, hell, I'd rather spend the $400 and go to the PBR that's happening on the same weekend in Kansas City anyway. Go watch the bull run.
You think about something like that. So I just spent last weekend at the state wrestling tournament for my boy, and food, hotels, and Airbnbs for 2 nights and all that. It was a couple hundred cheaper than that. Like, you could go on a little weekend vacation for less.
Yeah, I just can't imagine being one of those people that buys the floor seats, spends $1,000 per ticket. It's crazy to me. The economy is not that great right now. I mean, yes, we're kind of in a bounce back, I guess you would say, from one president to the next. But still, it just amazes me the amount that they're charging. And I even thought about going to Kansas because Raw is coming to Kansas before.
That's this right here. And take a look at this, guys. In section 2, right next to the ring on the gangway where they're running down, $259. The prices are dropping.
Is that for Backlash?
That's for April 28th, Monday Night Raw, Kansas City.
Okay.
At T-Mobile Center. The prices are dropping. But you have here section 8, $533. If all 3 of us went to go film and do the media day and all that crap, it would cost $2,000 for us to go.
Yeah. And I thought about my brother lives in Kansas, so I was thinking, he can buy a ticket, I can buy a ticket, we can, meet up and everything. I don't know.
I was like, you know how many bad decisions I can make with $2,000?
It's really, yeah, we can make some pretty bad ones. But look at this. It was $100. Now it's 73 from this, from this view here. You would need binoculars still. It wouldn't be, to me, it's not worth it because I would need to be by the seat, be by the ring. But
well, I remember nosebleeds when my oldest was little, $25.
Yeah, and that wasn't too long ago. This is like, since TKO bought the company, that these prices have jacked up like this. And then I heard, I don't know if it's in stone or not, but they're going to drop most of their house shows. So if you want to see them live, it's going to have to be a Raw or a SmackDown or a pay-per-view. So they're pretty much demanding you pay this price to see them. And I know we previously talked about this, maybe the last podcast, the podcast before, that honestly, I think they're pricing out what brought them to the game because it was the families that made a day out of it to go there. Take the whole family, like Bobby's case, family of 4 go there, or a family of 5. Depending on if the whole brood is coming.
I know people hate when we do this, but that's what makes SICW so great. It's old school, old style wrestling, but people travel 4 hours to come here, and it still costs less for them to travel 4 hours to buy a whole, buy the tickets and the beer and whatever they're going to buy there. It's still a lot less than going to one of these shows because this view is $234. That's not the 150 for parking or whatever else you want. It's still $600 to go.
I'm just gonna Bobby, pull up sicw.org. We are having a fan fest. You know, we talk about it every week. This is our third year in a row that we're having the fan fest. It's a Friday and a Saturday show. Friday night, you know, it's going to be kind of a storytelling night. You're going to have to help me with who's running that night.
Bill Apter.
Bill Apter. So he's going to be the host. Some of the legends that coming in on Friday are going to be there, and they're going to be telling stories. And
well, I know Teddy's going to be telling stories, and Tito's supposed to be telling stories. I don't think, just from what I understand from talking about with Kevin, is he goes to bed really early, so I don't think he's going to be there Friday night.
Oh, like I said, just some of the legends are going to be on there. And you know, that's what I like when I go to other places, other fan fests, is hearing the stories that they tell. I think it's one of the best parts. So you got that Friday night, and then you got the Hall of Fame Saturday. You got the meet and greet Saturday, which I think we're up to like 15, and still more names to be released. Of the legends that you get to meet, and it's not often that you do get to meet a Kevin Von Erich, and he will be there for the fan fest part. But Sabu and Gangrel and you know, Greg the Hammer Valentine,
The Beast,
you get to meet them, and then there's a wrestling show after that. Now, Bobby, if you got the website pulled up,
I do.
how much does that cost for the fan fest?
So let's do a breakdown first. Bill Apter would be $25. These are if you bought them individually. Bill Apter, $25. FanFest, $50. The wrestling show, $25. So if you just bought them all individually, it's $100. Or if you wanted them all anyway, we have it bundled together for $85.
So $85. You can spend $100 and be at nosebleeds and not you can't see the ring. You know, you have to look at the Megatrons or whatever they got up there to actually see what's going on. Or you can spend under $100, spend 2 nights with legends of WWE, but you got some mixture of ECW, you got some Mid-South, you got people that was in WCW. So, I mean, the price difference is just amazing.
And you have Bobby D.
Right, you got Bobby D.
The Bruiser Cup. Bobby D might win it again this year. He might.
I was like, I don't have it right now. You have to bring that up.
But anyhow, and
well, if it makes you feel better, Bobby, I know for a fact I won't win.
All right, I won't have to throw you out.
No,
but that's the whole thing. You know, it's like it's crazy how much they want. You know, and like Bobby said, family. Let's just say a family of four, $400 to go see Raw, or under that to actually meet the legends and talk to them and get their autograph and their pictures. You know, it's just hands down, I would go to that.
And if you stay out late enough, you'll be able to drink alcohol and shoot the breeze with all of us, including the legends, because that happens every single time.
I say for that price, you can get most of their autographs too.
Yep.
Yeah. I know we're switching hotels, so supposedly this hotel does not want any outside drinking in the parking lot or anything like that. So might be a little different this year, but still during the fan fest, you'll be able to meet them and get their pictures and their autographs.
Hotels tell me that all the time. You just drink in the lobby then.
Yeah, I was gonna say the last hotel said they didn't want it, but you know, we did it anyway.
Well, that's because the last hotel dropped the ball and closed the bar early. You figure if they wanted to make money, they should have kept it open because everyone was there to have fun and have a good time. And they dropped the ball on that one. But anyway, so dog in WWE, but you know, Monday Night Raw, it was almost, I think only 3 things really popped for me watching Raw. The rest was still just keeping on with the same storylines. I mean, it's all about the same storylines, but only 3 things really popped off, I think. One was with Bianca Belair and I'm going to butcher her name, Io or IE or
EO.
Io.
yeah,
Yeah.
the champion right now, the women's champion. They were
The really good
having
looking one.
they were having a signing for the match for WrestleMania. And last week I kind of we were talking about it, and I said, I can see this going into a 3-way match at WrestleMania, and it looks like this is how they're going to do it because they kind of set it up. Rhea Ripley came down, interrupted the whole thing, basically beat the crap out of those two, grabbed the clipboard that had the contract, and signed her name onto it. So I think that is actually going to lead into them having a 3-way dance at WrestleMania, which is fine, but I don't know why Rhea Ripley had to lose her belt to Io Sky before the WrestleMania so they can have a 3-way dance. They could have easily just done the 3-way dance without all that. So that, Rhea Ripley did get a pop from the audience and everything. Oh, started all off too. So the start of Raw, John Cena came out, and John Cena was basically telling everyone how he's breaking up with his fans. Basically, that for the last 20 years, you either hated him or loved him, but he still kept trucking along, doing his thing, and eventually he earned everyone's respect. But now he feels that it was a bad everything. His whole promo was about a relationship, basically, and it talked about how his fans were the negative ones and controlling, and if you guys ever watched the Total Divas, the first couple seasons that had John Cena and Nikki Bella, how they were going out, and through that whole couple seasons, it showed how of a control freak John Cena was. And through his whole promo, that's all I can think of was, yeah, right, we know that you're the control freak. But basically, his whole promo was based on he was breaking his relationship with the fans. And it was surprising, too, because a lot of fans, he was wearing a brand new shirt, and a couple of fans in the audience had that brand new shirt on. And so he was pointing them all out that he got them because they paid their money for his stuff. And there was a little kid sitting in front row wearing that shirt, and he about made the kid cry because he pointed him out and just kept riling him up. But so that was kind of cool. And then of course Cody Rhodes came out and challenged him a little bit, and talking about how he's basically the Rock's puppet since he's turned his back on everyone. That was a standout thing. Some people liked the Penta match. Of course, Bobby, you can say the guy's name he went against, or maybe not.
Penta went against Ludwig.
Oh, Ludwig Kaiser.
Yes, there you go. And I too, I like that match. It was pretty damn good. That Kaiser guy, when
Very
he was,
underrated.
Yeah, very underrated. He's really good. And of course, Penta, he's been around the block. He new to WWE, but man, he's been everywhere.
I'll say not new to wrestling.
Yeah, not new to wrestling. There was a good match someone was putting on YouTube. It was Jacob Fatu versus Penta. And it was a very good match. And, you can tell that it was when Jacob Fatu was coming up through the system. Not the WWE system, but just the independents. But yeah, they put on a good match, and then they closed the show with Braun Breaker versus not the Demon, but his regular version. Yeah, Finn Balor. They put on one hell of a show because not a lot of people counter Braun Breaker's moveset. He's got a very fast moveset, but a very powerful moveset. And Finn Balor was able to counter a lot of his stuff. But it did turned down to where the rest of Judgment Day came down and interfered and actually screwed Finn Balor. So I guess it's kind of putting that rift in there between that family to try to break them up. I think that needs to be broken up anyway, because I think Dom and Liv can go their own way. I just don't know where Carlito will fall if they like disband, because Carlito is kind of already the weird man out.
Yes, they don't use him for anything, so it might be better for him if they disband.
That could be too, but you know, they're talking about that this breakup of the family is going to be the way that the guy that just left AEW, Black, that he's going to be able to, yeah, Aleister Black can come back to WWE and possibly take over that family, which, you know, I think his version would not be so much of a comic relief like they are right now, because you know, Dom and Liv and all that's big comic relief, I think. But Aleister Black, I think he's more of a serious, at least his fold up in AEW, that was a strictly, we're going to go to the ring and beat your ass and pin you and be done and move on to the next victim, you know. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And he supposedly can come in anytime. His non-compete contract or clause is over, so he can actually join WWE right now if he wanted to. Well, whenever they want him to. But
I'm calling Raw after Mania.
Yeah, probably. But the rest of the storylines kept coming forward, you know. So you got Roman Reigns going against Seth Rollins, and possibly CM Punk too. So it could be another three-way dance at WrestleMania, which I tell you, it's you know, those 4 or 5 guys that are constantly just rotating in and out of who they're going to fight. But one other thing before we jump to the next thing, to me, watching Raw, they're putting a lot of SmackDown guys on Raw. And I think it's taken away from the time that the Raw guys have to wrestle. You know, like Cody Rhodes coming over to Raw to talk to John Cena. You know, that's been happening the last couple of, you know, Mondays. So,
well, and some of that's going to be because of Raw's or Netflix's contract too. Like Netflix put in their contract they wanted Cena, so if they're going to have Cena show up somewhere, it's got to be on Raw.
Yeah, but their roster is so deep that it's taken away from a lot of the other people.
Yeah, it definitely
SmackDown and NXT are the only entities that WWE has that are gaining viewers. I mean, WrestleMania is going to be huge. But
oh yeah. Matter of fact, I heard today that they're going to do a comedy roast at WrestleMania. If you guys ever seen any of those comedy roasts of like Donald Trump and who's the other ones?
No, I watched them when they were funny and people didn't get their feelings hurt. And the
I
Dean Martin roast.
Yeah, I mean, they're still like that, you know. Especially that one.
They cross lines and make me laugh every time.
Especially that one they did on, was it, I don't think it was Peyton. Who's the other quarterback?
TB12, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
You do one for Tom Brady?
And that one was hilarious. And they're going to do one. Tony Hitchcliffe is going to be the host of that. And he's the one that killed it at the Tom Brady roast.
I say he killed it there. He's the one that had the Puerto Rico joke that got people all up in arms at the Trump rally.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be very cool that they're at least going to have a roast. But
are you anti-Trump, Bobby?
I'm not getting the politics on here.
I know you're going to get us canceled.
But speaking of roasts, the Cauliflower Alley Club
That's got
announced
me excited.
they too is going to have a roast, and it's going to be held by Mick Foley, which is also going into the Hall of Fame for Cauliflower Alley.
I can't wait to see it.
See if we can film it.
I can't wait to see it. I love Mick Foley. Like, I own his books and everything, but I can't see him being like a roast master.
No, so I know that they're going to have to throw in some other people because when he talks, he never talks bad about any other person. And that's a downfall for him when it comes to a roast. But he does do those hinting around as he's talking about him. You kind of get where he's aiming at, but he never says it out loud. But it's going to be very interesting because I've been to a couple of his things that he's done outside of wrestling, and he's very funny. So be interesting to see what he does and who he brings up and talks about and talks to. And I'm sure with everyone that's going to be in Vegas that, it's just going to be more than just him that's going to be popping up on stage. But I am very much looking forward to that.
I believe he lives out there. Jeff Ross would be a good one for them to bring in to help him out.
Oh yeah, he's been the
original roast master.
Almost all of them. But let's see here. Yeah, so definitely Fan Fest is coming up. You want to put that on the screen, and so we can just talk about the dates real quick, because I want to say it's. I don't want to say the dates if I'm wrong, because I want to say it's May 17th, but.
Oh yeah, 16th and the 17th, Friday and Saturday night.
So 16th and the 17th.
So Friday night, Saturday all day.
Right. Now, if you do want to go to WWE, even though we said that the price is all jacked up and everything, they're like 2 weeks before this. But it's a very good comparison if you're looking at how to spend your money. I would tell you to spend your money here at the Fan Fest. Because just look at all those legends that they've already talked about. Tito Santana, Kevin Von Erich. I think that is the main one right there. This is someone who doesn't go to a lot of these. Really been out of wrestling, the whole world of wrestling, for a long period of time, and just now recently started appearing. From
what I understand, this is only his second one going to.
I mean, I believe it because you just don't see it often. He
So
was
it's
holed
only
up in Hawaii.
1 week apart, not a couple.
1 week apart. But very cool. I know you already threw the slide up there once before, but let's hit up our next show for SICW. It's the Shriners show. And I don't know if that says the start time on it, but I know
it does. Doors open at 5, start at 6.
So that part has changed. So take your 6 down. So now the doors open at 4 o'clock and starts at 5.
Why the hour jump?
I want to say.
Yeah, like saving time.
Sure, that sounds great. But yeah, I just want to repeat that again because we've been hanging this flyer around other places. So I just want to put it out there again. Doors open at 4, starts at 5. We'll get you, 2.5 hours worth of fun. That way you're still leaving, around 7:30. Just to make it so you're not spending the whole night there. But it's a beautiful building, the Shriners building. If you've never been there, it is such a historic building, and it's fenced. The whole parking lot is fenced in, and it's watched. So feel free to. Your vehicles will be fine. Nothing happened to them, won't get stolen or anything like that. So it's a great time, family oriented. They're going to have.
How long have we been going there? 4 years now?
This will be the 4th year.
And I've never heard of a single problem.
Right.
as far as
And
like
what we're
most people say.
saying, what we're beating around the bush about is because the Shriners building is in East St. Louis, which is a rough-ish area. I'm in East St. Louis all the time. I never have a problem. But you just hear the words East St. Louis and then you automatically get, oh. But let me tell you, it's a great part of it. And like I said, it's fenced in. The parking it's surveillanced. So you should never have a problem. And we put on a hell of a show for them.
I would say we partake in some of the Shriners special activities afterwards. And we go to the bar. And there are people with their 8-year-old kids
Make
there.
it sound like we do some weird shit.
Well, that's why I clarified it, because the way I was about to go with this. Because they have kids, like 8-year-old kids there, that are there later than that. There's never been any kind of safety issues or anything like that.
Yeah, so we already know one of the matches. Actually, we know 2 of the matches, and I know I butcher his name all the time. But Kowalski is defending his belt there. And his opponent is the guy, I always forget his name. It would have been nice if it was on the poster. That would help me out a lot. We also know the female match is going to be Liv Khan. She's going against that Magnolia. I want to say I got it right. Magnolia.
You did? You did? You got it right.
So that's going to be very cool to see because very rare do you see Lilith Khan wrestle. So this is going to be a great showing. So, bring your daughters. They'll have people to look up to, and maybe we could get them into wrestling as well. Are you looking up the guy that Kowalski's wrestling?
Yeah, I can always picture him, but I can never think of his name either.
Yeah.
He's a Mid-South, or not Mid-South, Mid-States guy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we'll have a great show. I know I'm defending my belt. I don't know who I'm defending it against, but it's definitely going to be.
Sorry, going back to FanFest, I don't think he was on the poster, but I see it on Herb's page. Dan Severn.
Oh, yeah, he was one of the first ones we named off. That
was he?
Yep.
I didn't remember seeing him on the poster when he had the poster pulled up.
Yeah, we didn't say it tonight, but yeah, he was one of the first
No,
ones.
I said it tonight.
Oh, did you?
Well, we know I'm a great listener. So.
Again, Shriner Temple. Doors open at 4. Show starts at 5. Gonna be a great show. Bobby D will be there. I'll be there. It's just gonna be an awesome show. Nate Dogg is gonna be there. This is gonna be the first time Nate is gonna be at this building. So.
Yep.
Will be good.
Well, we don't put him on the legends list. He's not a legend. But he has traveled the world. We'll be there, Jake Parnell.
There you go. Graham is that guy's name that's going against Kowalski.
That's it.
See, the brain works slow.
Is it Gary?
Yeah, Gary Graham. The brain works slow, and I always say I claim that to the chair shots I took in my youth. But it still comes back.
The wheel eventually comes around.
It does.
I've heard of you doing other dumb things when you're a kid too. But...
Yeah, but I can't remember them. And that's the great thing. Back when I was a kid, there was no Facebook, there was no TikTok or anything like that. So,
Well, when I say kid, I was talking about like high school stories I've heard.
I don't remember.
I guess still no Facebook, but. I think when I was in junior high, I said when I was in junior high, I think we had a MySpace. I don't know where you were at then. We had that AOL Instant Messenger.
Hey, my email.
I think, Jim, all we had was the Yahoo chat rooms and AOL chat rooms.
Yeah,
but that was in the 90s even. So.
But to this day, my email is still an AOL. So. And we got proven that when we had Mr. Wonderful Poor Orndorff, Travis Orndorff on, and he called me out on that. But yeah, So you got that card up already. So the next Belleville show is going to be a doozy. You know, it's April 5th. Of course, that's going to be the regular time. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 7. And right there, you got it. The main event. You can't believe it's happening. The top guns are fighting each other. So you got Brandon, who has been out and about, other companies, OVW, NWA, making a great name for himself. But you got Joey that's going around to other places. He's worked New Breed, Mid-States, and stuff like that. But something happened where they're not seeing eye to eye no more. And
so we could basically build this as NWA Exodus against SICW.
truly, you probably could, because Brandon is really, he's NWA bound, whether he is signed a developmental deal or if he's just a welcome to all their shows. I mean, he's definitely going to get signed by the NWA sooner or later. He's just right there. So that's going to be interesting to see this match go down, because you got two people that know everything about him. When I started training these guys at the Ace Academy, you know, they started together, square one. Neither one of them knew any wrestling moves except for what they seen on TV. So they know everything about each other. You know, these are people that when I had other rookies come in, as they furthered their careers, I had them helping me teach these other rookies. So, you know, they were actually students of the game, as you can say, and then teachers of the game as well. So it's going to be interesting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of countering everyone's moves, because they know it all. But then another highlight. We got a guy in our podcast, our group, Bobby, going against Kowalski. Now, it
Speaking of
might not
countering
be
moves,
Kowalski. It might be Gary Graham. But if it is Kowalski, you know, you guys have had a long history. So I'm assuming you know what it's going to take for you to get the job done this time.
yeah, I mean, talking about countering moves, if it's Kowalski, like, we're going to go hold for hold, you know, back and forth.
Yeah, so this is
Now,
definitely going to be a show.
I'll be as a side note. Kowalski doesn't really do holds. He just tries to squash you.
You just have to make sure to
big,
take that briefcase and smack Lucky with it, knock his ass out so he can't interfere.
Well, I'm definitely down for that, but there's a much bigger problem that will be in the ring across from me. He is big, he is strong, he is heavy. It will take some talent, but I think I can take that tree down.
Yeah,
But I think the worst thing was he won the Pizza Cup. That's the worst thing.
And then rubbed it in my face at the last show for the tag match. But I got the last laugh when I got the pin over him in that tag match. Which, in turn, is what's got me this title shot.
There you go.
Bring it home.
I plan on it.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but you've actually held some pins over Kowalski as well.
That is who I got the Central States title from the first time.
Yeah, so you know what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, it about broke my back throwing him. I hurt for a long time after that, but if that's what it takes, I will toss his big butt around again.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. You know, I still have, you know, the Shriners belt, but I think we're down to just one piece of gold on the podcast, so we need some more.
Yep. Unfortunately, yeah. Real quick, Nasty Boy, Brian Knobs, over 18,000, close to 19,000 has been raised. So the 100 or so people that watch us, that watch our podcast part, get on over there. If you can drop $5, $10, do what you can, help them out.
Yeah, he updated everyone on Facebook today. It was him in a wheelchair in a parking lot. He was waiting on a special needs van to come pick him up. And so he took 5 minutes out of his time to kind of update everyone. He said he's feeling much better, but he evidently has a wound on his foot, and it's not healing. And I'm sure it's diabetes related. Unfortunately, Brian has put on a lot of weight. So I say this as one fat guy to another fat guy. He's not taking care of himself. So most older guys, fat guys, we wait until the last damn minute to take care of us. And it's his time now. He needs everyone's help. Like I said, the wound is not healing, and that's normally the first sign that they might have to take it off. You can't have any open wounds. It's just infection city. But otherwise, he said that he's feeling much better. He's not out of the woodwork. And that's the exact quote. He said he's not out of the woodwork. And he says just dropping by, saying hi, wishing him well, and that is lifting his spirits high. So if you can't go over there and donate, go to his Facebook, drop him a message, tell him what he meant to you. Growing up in the '80s, watching him in WWE and WCW and everywhere, TNA. He's been through them all. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and Brian, if you're watching, hey, my special need bus that I had only had one damn tire, so they just gave me a stick and chased the tire. So you're still one up on me. He's got 4 and a driver, so he's doing not too bad.
All right, so here's the twist. Normally we wait until the end of the episode to kind of go over what we picked up through the week. I actually want to do a deep dive on one of these figures that I picked up. Of course, the Belleville Fairgrounds happened this past weekend, and I was able to pick up a few things, but then I also went to a store downtown Belleville as well. I'll give them a shout out. I Had That is the name of the building. And a couple of wrestlers have gone there before, and you can catch them out on YouTube because it's a very famous store, and they've actually closed down for wrestlers that come through. The main one I'm thinking of kind of skipped my mind, but he's in NXT now. He just came from AEW. All Ego, Ethan Page. He has a YouTube page where he does toy hunting, and he came to Belleville, and they closed down for him so he can look around and pick out some purchases. So I went there as well. Also, I want to give them a shout out because they hang our flyers for the SICW shows. So if you're ever in that building, just look on the windows. You'll see our next dates because they will always hang our flyers for us. And shout out to Benny's Pizza. We just did the pizza eating contest a month ago. So they are not really a sponsor, but they are a brand that's helping us by promoting our stuff as well. So our posters hang up in that shop as well.
And I can tell you the best buffalo chicken pizza I've ever had came from Benny's. So that night, actually.
I say
It took-
I love.
It took
if we're
me
gonna
a
be plugging
week to eat it, but it was still good.
if we're gonna plug their pizza, the pulled pork pizza is the way to go, with that sweet barbecue sauce on it.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps telling me the biscuits and gravy pizza with the grape jam on it. We need to try, but
I've heard about that one and the crab ragoon one, and I haven't tried either one of those yet.
You know what? Our Wrestling with Food series, we should probably do it. I know we're going to start going, and because we're going to get the equipment. Jim and I have been talking about it. Well, today. And we should start going to, since we're local, Belleville, St. Louis, specialize in restaurants for that segment anyway, and just pimp out what we have here, because a lot of the food reviewers don't come here. They go to Kansas City and Memphis, and they skip over St. Louis, and it's a shame because there's a lot of good food, a lot of good people.
Yeah.
I do like to eat.
And definitely, the point had like a survey going on about the top three foods in St. Louis, and it was the top three. Actually, I can't remember the third one, but the second place was toasted raviolis. Evidently, that is a St. Louis thing, and then pork steaks. And I tell you, there's not a week that goes by that I don't cook pork steaks. I cook them every week. Um,
Do you guys like toasted ravioli since you're from here? When I first got out here and went to St. Louis and tried it, damn near broke my teeth.
I like toasted ravioli, but you should YouTube. There's a video of midget Kevin Hart and
midget Kevin Hart.
Midget Hart.
Anyway, it was him and one of those guys. They were doing a movie tour and they stopped and they were giving them they were in St. Louis and they gave them St. Louis locals like toasted ravioli and Ted Drews and everything, and their reactions to everything. You should definitely YouTube it.
Well, I have to. All right, so to start this off, Belleville Flea Market, I was able to pick up three cool wrestlers. The first one, and these first two are going to be from the Superstar lines, which is a line that's really dedicated just to Walmart. It's like a Walmart exclusive. But I like them because they're almost like, my collection as a kid was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, and wrestlers. But this is like a mixture of them because the scale that they use is just like a He-Man figure. It's the same scale, same body mold type. But this is Rey Mysterio. I picked him up just because he had these cool little wings on him.
So is his arms on fire?
No, it's not flames. It looks more like wings. Like he's a high flyer, I guess you would say. But I thought this guy was pretty cool. And I'm not one to really collect newer wrestlers, but this Superstar line, which they had an online exclusive that you can't buy at Walmart, and it's their first 2-pack, which I might order because I almost pulled the trigger and I ordered it already, but I haven't. But it's got an old school Dusty Rhodes and a Cody Rhodes. And that's a 2-pack deal that they have going on. Looks really cool. But the other one from the same line, Superstars, is this Ultimate Warrior. And I think this figure looks badass.
Just to cut you off really quick, though, you said you don't collect newer wrestlers. Rey Mysterio Jr. started wrestling in 1989. He made his pro debut. So, I mean, he is still an older wrestler.
Yeah, and that's why I picked him up. But
Hey, Jim,
but man,
on that Rey Mysterio one, did you get the jetpack with it?
no. Unfortunately, when you pick things up from a yard sale or flea market, you normally don't get the accessories with it. So I was kind of shocked.
Yeah,
things did come off.
And as long as we're talking about Rey Mysterio and debuting, I always knew he debuted when he was 14. He used the name Colibri, which was Spanish for hummingbird back then. Maybe that explains the wings a little bit.
There you go.
Maybe it's from Master of the WWE Universe line.
I do have a couple of those too. Matter of fact, I have the Ultimate Warrior of that one and the Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But check out this back of this Ultimate Warrior. His robe is fantastic. So
a lot of detail on it.
Yeah,
that should be on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
and these guys are normally like $10. They're pretty cheap. But they're really into the retros where, the Hulk Hogan's, the Ultimate Warriors, $10 Million Man, and now they did throw a Cena in there and some other ones that are new, Seth Rollins and stuff. But I will always, newer wrestler versus an Ultimate Warrior, I'm going to choose the Ultimate Warrior, especially with that detail on the cape and everything. but I thought that was a very sweet pickup.
Well,
And the
how
last,
much how much did you pay for the Rey Mysterio one?
so a lot of it's the cool thing about a flea market. You can normally do bundles. So like on the Ultimate Warrior, I think he wanted $5 for it, and the Rey Mysterio was $5. But I bought this guy as well, which is Rick Steiner, a jacked up version of Rick Steiner, but very cool WCW Rick Steiner, and that's why I picked him up because I'm kind of, I'm at that point in time with the LJNs that they're going to cost me an arm and a leg to fill out the collection. So I'm kind of jumping around from finishing the Hasbro line to now stepping out and trying to get some of these WCW guys.
Well, I'm checking
My
the scalper
son-
prices for that Rey Mysterio, and the Rey Mysterio scalper price is 30 without the jetpack.
So this one, the Ultimate Warrior, if you go on eBay right now, mint and package is going for $64. So it's kind of crazy what wrestling figures go for. But yeah, definitely a very cool pickup. But yeah, so and
My youngest just got 2 days ago in the mail, Rick Steiner's son.
oh yeah,
He was itching for that Braun Breaker figure.
well, Scotty has a son too. Supposedly he's already got a deal with the WWE. He's coming off of a football career, just like Braun did, and they're hoping that will be the new, Steiner brothers. I'm hoping Braun is. You can't really tell that Braun is very new to the wrestling world. He already seems established, or he's already seemed like seasoned.
I think
And
he grew up around the business. He has to know things. Like, I talk to my kids about certain things that I would not talk to others about with the business. It's not it's not as secretive as Jake the Snake's dad kept it from him.
yeah, well, definitely Braun has got some people he can look to for advice and everything. But I'm talking like the move sets, the capability of having a great match, which is rare for people that just literally got into the business to do. He went to NXT, blew through NXT. I mean, he wasn't there long at all, and then went right to the main roster, where he is. I think he's the Intercontinental Champion. I might be wrong. It might be the U.S. title, but that mid card title already. And that's normally the next step to the championships. The heavyweight or the world or the universal. It's so weird that they're doing that shit, but I always hated that name, the Universal Champion. It's the champion. I want some guy from Mars to come down and beat up on Cody and say, "Bitch, you ain't no Universal Champion."
Sorry, we only got the Venus champion.
Yeah. But then I had that. Now, that place has got everything. If you wanted to collect Smurfs, they got Smurfs. If you're big into horror, they got a whole bunch of horror figures. If you're into rock and roll, they still sell the albums. And I'm talking about the record albums. And old posters, old T-shirts. It's a really throwback store. And the front half of the store is all like sports memorabilia. So it's all hockey, baseball, football. But in the back of the store, that's where it gets really good, at least if you're me. So the first thing I picked up, which I thought was freaking excellent, because it's from a great movie.
That is awesome.
Andre the Giant, when he was in, now I can't even,
The Princess Bride.
I mean, hands down, this is one of the best movies that a wrestler actually went and did. You know, it
come
wasn't.
on. Super Shredder doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well, you didn't
Longest
know.
yard remake.
You didn't know who the Super Shredder was unless you knew. You know,
Okay,
he
the
was never
Punisher then.
seen.
The
Well,
Punisher then. Same guy.
the Punisher is the same guy, but I'm saying I'm sticking to this. This is one of the best movies that a wrestler did. You know,
I know I'm giving you shit.
it wasn't a Hulk Hogan Suburban Commando or The Rock's Tooth Fairy, you know, fucking gimmick. You know, he did that movie, and he did the Bionic Man, where he played Bigfoot. Yeah, I think it's called the Bionic. Oh, it was a TV show about the Bionic Man, and he played a Bigfoot character in it or something like that.
Was that Flash Gordon that was a Bionic Man, the $1 Million Man?
No, no,
They're all
this
before
guy
my
was
time.
supposed to be like 90% metal or machine or something like that.
That's the $6 million man.
$6 million man, that's what it is. And he was on that sitcom, that TV show. But very cool.
Was that
If you watch it now, it'd be funny.
They also have a much bigger version scale of him, but they want $40 for it, so that might come a little later. But just to have that figure from that movie, because there's so many lines from that movie that are still quotable today. Like one of his lines, and I said it the other day on Facebook. Anybody want a peanut? You know, that was one of his lines.
I just looked up your Andre the Giant and the $6 Million Man, and that was February 1st and 4th, 1976.
It was a Bigfoot guy, though, right?
Yeah, he played the Secret of Bigfoot. Well, that was the name of the episode.
Of Bigfoot. And I know that because just
Dressed
watching
as
the
Bigfoot and
documentaries
posed with
on
Lee
Andre the Giant.
Neighbors.
But WWE actually released, and if I see it, I'm going to pick it up. They actually released a version of him as Bigfoot. And that was like 2 years ago. So it might be still in circulation somewhere. I just haven't seen it to where I can pick it up yet. But so the
The
man,
big one has Andre holding the rock.
yeah, he does come with a rock. Yeah. The man of the hour that I want to talk about, and I actually had an action figure of him before on the podcast, but I found it here, and I found it mint on card, which is Shane Douglas, ECW legend. And I got it mint on card because I think it'd be so cool to have him sign this guy. You know, since he is going to be at our fan fest. So everyone will be able to meet and greet and get his autograph, take a picture with him. It's another reason and the fucking price, $14.99 for this guy. Yeah, you couldn't beat the price. So he is the one I want to do a deep dive on because there's certain people in certain wrestlers that have a moment that lasts forever. And then there's a whole lot of wrestlers that you know of them, but you don't know what's special about them. And, you know, granted, I say every wrestler's special because it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, blood, sweat, and tears, fucking pain, fucking concussions, everything else that wrestlers go through. But there's certain wrestlers, moment in times that everyone remembers. Like Hulk Hogan when he beat the Iron Sheik for the belt. It right then and there, it was a pinpoint where it went from old WWF to now Vince McMahon Jr.'s WWF. and started a whole revolution. So that moment in time when he beat the Iron Sheik, that started a moment. And then, like, you have, again, Hulk Hogan and WCW when he was the third member of the NWO. That was another moment that blasted around the world. I would even say Austin and Bret Hart when it was a submission match. And Austin he got busted open by Bret Hart by the ring bell. He's bleeding all over the place. He doesn't submit to Bret Hart's sharpshooter, passes out. Austin was the heel in the match. Bret was the baby, but Bret refused to let go of the hold. Ken Shamrock was the ref. He's trying to break him up. Finally, he breaks him up, but then he just still stops the piss out of Austin when he's unconscious, and immediately flipped them both. It flipped Austin to the baby, flipped Bret to the heel. That was a moment in time that we got the Austin 316 era, kind of like when he beat Jake the Snake at Survivor Series and did that one promo that talked about you talk about John 316. I'm saying Austin 316 says I just whooped your ass, and that just started the whole fucking craze,
Okay, so what did Mr. Shane do that cement his legacy?
What cemented his legacy, and I talked about it before on this podcast, is he was in a tournament. Now, this was after WWE started buying out all the territories. This is when WCW dropped the NWA, because when WCW first started, they were still part of the NWA. As a matter of fact, on their action figures, on their title belts, it still said NWA WCW, because they were a company, but they were part of the NWA promotion. So WCW drops the NWA. They're running with just World Championship Wrestling. So the NWA is like scattered, and there's still an NWA board. So there's still board members that are trying to piece together the NWA. Like right now, you got Billy Corgan that owns the NWA. But back then, there still was a board. There were still other territories, smaller now, very smaller territories. But they are still trying to keep this shit together.
Okay, that's because Vince Jr. went and bought all the big territories.
Right. So you had a tournament, and Shane Douglas was in it. And let me see. I wrote down who he wrestled. Just give me 1 second to win this.
Okay, and before he finishes the story, before he finishes there, Shane Douglas struggled with this decision that he's about to talk to about a lot. Went back and forth a whole bunch.
Well, we're gonna let Shane say it in his own words.
Yeah, so he beat Taz, he beat Dean Malenko, he beat Too Cold Scorpio, and it was a tournament division. So other guys were in there, and they won or lost the match, but that was the people that he had to beat to win this tournament. And this was an NWA tournament. The board of directors was in the audience, but 3 people knew if Shane were to win of what he was going to do. And that was Terry Gordy. Let me make sure I got that name right. Yeah, so Paul Henning and Todd Gordon. So I did have their name wrong. Those two. Now Todd owned ECW, but it wasn't ECW as we know it, Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Eastern
It was,
Championship
yeah,
Wrestling.
it was NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling. Again, they are part of the NWA, and this was a tournament to get the new champion crowned. So go ahead and hit your player there, Nate.
Do want to preface this by saying The Hannibal TV is the one we're pulling this from, so go check them out. Link will be in the description. And for those of you who want to be grammar Nazis or any type of Nazi, we are not stealing it. Go fucking watch it yourself. And
We
don't
just
be
want
an
to time out this moment in time.
But
A
Mike
lot of
said
people, including me and a lot of wrestling experts, would say that ECW as Extreme Championship Wrestling really began when you threw the NWA title in the garbage. Could you just detail who came up with that idea and what the whole fallout was from that?
Yes, it was. I don't know if it was all Paul's idea, if it was Paul and Todd's idea. Paul called me a week or so before the tournament. We were still at that point, Eastern Championship Wrestling was still a member of the NWA. And at that time, we had started drawing those really strong houses, those sellout crowds. And I think we were only an NWA member to be doing that in the States. So they wanted to do the tournament in the ECW arena and proffered the idea of having Shane Douglas, the ECW champion, become the NWA champion. And Paul called me and laid this idea out to me, which I remember vividly. The first time that he told it to me, it sounded so wrong, like to do that, because it bled so much of the politics that I eschewed in the business. And he, but the one thing I'll say about Paul was he didn't call me and tell me I was doing it. Paul always gave me the option. He would say, we can do this or we can do this. And he would tell you the good and bad of this, and he would tell you the good and bad of this. It wasn't like he'd say, we can do this, which is going to be really great, or we can do this, which is going to suck, but it'll be okay. He would give you all points of view on equal footing. And through the course of the time, that week or two that it was leading up to the tournament, you can imagine in my head, I'm wrestling with this because I, had grown up a fan of the NWA and had huge respect for most of those guys that carried, not all of them that carried that belt. And I would go through this. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I couldn't very well call my friends and say, hey, Paul's got this idea. So I was sort of stuck with this just on my own. And Wednesday before the tournament, Mike Tenay had a radio show, nationally syndicated radio show on, and he called me on Thursday and said, did you hear my show last night? I said, no. And he said, I think you ought to go back and listen to the archive. I had Dennis Corluzzo on, and he didn't talk very kindly about you. To my knowledge, I'd never met Dennis Corluzzo. I'd known the name only because of the hotel where we're staying tonight. The first time I came into ECW, Eddie Gilbert had to run over there to pick up the check from him. And we drove over with Eddie, sat in the car, he ran in and came out. I didn't know what Dennis Corluzzo looked like. I had never met him as far as I had remembered. And so why would he, if we're doing this weekend, it didn't make sense to me. So I went back and I listened, and Dennis Corluzzo, remember at this time, we were still making about 75% of our money on independence, about a quarter of ECW. So I listened, and he said in the interview, if anybody out there is thinking of hiring Shane Douglas, I wouldn't, because I can tell you on firsthand knowledge, Shane Douglas will take your deposit, not show up, and he'll screw you out of the money. And I had never done that to anybody, never. And I thought, why the fuck would he say that? That's the dumbest thing in the world. And at the time, I took it as an overt attempt to take food off my family's table. And it pissed me off. And I thought, so he's politicking on me now, and I don't even know the guy? So that's what the industry is. I've learned the politics. I know how to do them. I'm playing with the best of them. I just choose not to. So I still, of course, after listening to that, that pushed me towards, fuck it, I'm throwing the belt down. But then as I got closer to the day of doing it, I still had great reservations. I got to the ECW arena typically around 12:30, 1 o'clock on a TV day. And I walked through the back door, and this short, heavy-set, sort of odd-looking guy with a funny accent came walking up and shoves a contract in my face. Here, Shane, sign this, man. Go sign this, man. I said, who are you? And he said, I'm Dennis Corluzzo, man. Nice to meet you. And he's like, what's this guy doing here, And so I looked at this thing. It said legitimate contract. And he said, I got signed on the spot. And I said, first of all, I wouldn't sign a contract from God until my attorney reads it, Dennis. So I'll take it on, let my attorney read it. And he proceeded to follow me around the dressing room the entire night. At one point, I came out of a toilet stall, having taken a shit. And he was outside the toilet stall and ready to open the door. He goes, "You're saying inside this man?" I was ready to knock him out. I was really getting pissed. I kept telling Paul, "Get him the fuck away from me, because if he keeps shoving that contract in my face, I'm gonna knock him out." And so finally, Paul did his best to keep him away from me. I went and dressed under the stairs with Taz and Perry and the guys. I think Bam Bam and Chris. I don't think Bam Bam was there yet. Now I've got 3 matches in the tournament to get through. First with Taz, second with Malenko, and the third with Too Cold. And the building was hotter than hell. Extremely stifling hot, August night. And so I had to get through these matches. And, I still hadn't committed to doing it. In fact, when I'm in the match with Scorpio, I know I've got to ultimately make a decision pretty quickly here, and I start doing the promo. And I never pre-planned or wrote any of my promos down. I just spoke off the whole time I was growing up with my dad. My dad was a legitimate superhero, World War II vet, a decorated hero in the war. Served under Patton's Third Army. 28-inch waist, 48-inch chest. I mean, that was Billy. There's a picture of him from World War II with holding an M60 machine gun and a carbine, and it just looks like G.I. Joe, And watching, he's like a legitimate superhero to me growing up. And he used to tell me from the time I was a kid, and I never knew what he meant. He used to say, "Son, you can always remember, you can walk with your feet on the ground like everybody else. You can soar with the eagles." I go, "Okay, Dad. Yeah, sounds good." I had no idea what he meant by that. And the moment in that promo where I stopped, I'd say, "Here we go, Dad." My dad had just passed away earlier, like a few weeks before. And when I told him, "Here we go, Dad," it was because I could feel my father's presence. And for the first time in my entire life, I realized what my dad was saying. You can go along and do what everybody else does and get what everybody else gets, or you can take a chance to soar and perhaps do better. And that's when I threw the belt down. As I'm cutting through the promo, the only part of the promo I tried to memorize, not memorize, just, I kept going over it in my head, was the long list of names of people that had carried that belt, because I didn't want to miss anybody. And, after these 3 matches, I'm blown up and it's hot, and I'm trying to remember this promo, and I'm going through it. And luckily, the audience starts hitting out names. And Dory Funk, and Terry Funk, the man that'll never die, and Fat Man Dusty Rhodes, and I'm going through it, and it almost lent to the credibility of the reality of the promo, because it was, you could see it wasn't a scripted thing.
Yeah.
And I hadn't yet made eye contact, and the reason I'm dragging this promo out is I'm still in my head going, "Do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it." My biggest hesitation to doing it had nothing to do with being nice or mean to Dennis Corluzzo. I didn't want any of those guys I had just mentioned to think that I was doing anything to shit on their legacy, because it was anything but that. And that's why I said that for a company that died 7 years ago, R.I.P. And that was the only hesitation I had. And as I'm doing that promo, if you watch close, you'll see my head turned to the left. And Todd was sitting with Corluzzo and Bob Ortiz, our ring announcer, down at the front left corner of the ring. And I made eye contact with Corluzzo, and all I could hear in my head was, "He'll take your money and steal your money and fuck you." And that's when I said, "And he can all kiss my ass," and threw the belt right at him. Thank God it worked. There was no guarantee it would. There was every guarantee that more likely that the fans would go, "Fuck you, ECW and Shane Douglas." And luckily that more represented the FTW attitude that Thaz talked about later at ECW that really set us apart from everybody else. But it could have easily been the epitaph of my career. Thank God it wasn't.
You mentioned at the end.
From there, he goes on talking about how there's never going to be another NWA, no matter what Billy does. You can't recapture that. It's lost.
And you can tell that it is still a struggle. He's had some great talent come through there. I think one of his main problems is he's not contracting out everyone. What I heard is like the top 5 players in the NWA are the ones that are contracted to long contracts that are paying a really good wage. But you had Nick Aldis, who was their NWA champion for a while, and he carried that very proudly. And he went all over, just like Ric Flair would do. He went everywhere. And, through that way. And Nick, I want to say, was actually the champion when Corgan bought it. So, you know, Nick was trying to do this all on his own for a while. And, there's videos of him with Harley Race that he came to WLW and put the belt on the line. And, he was trying to make the NWA what it used to be. And then Billy bought it. And then some friction happened between Nick Aldis and Billy. And now, Nick Aldis is in WWE. But there was a lot of people that kind of went through there. The guy in WWE right now that, I can't remember his name, Bobby. Help me out. He's in all the Slim Jim commercials now. He replaces Macho Man.
LA Knight.
LA Knight. He was in the NWA, and they had him for a while, and they let him go. And now he's a big star in the WWE. So he's had some great people come through, but somehow it's just not connecting with the majority of the audiences and the wrestling fans. So he does, and he currently is going through still a rebuilding phase. More power to him if he can break out and become like a top 4 company or something like that. Because the more wrestling companies we have, the better it is for wrestlers. More places to go, more places to make money, more places to have that long career. I know we've prized other companies and we've dogged other companies, but in the end, the more there is, the better it is for wrestlers. So I'll always throw that way. But to get into Shane Douglas's story, when some wrestlers start out, they don't get the moniker that they are known for. Like the Ultimate Warrior was known as the Dingo Warrior when he first started. Or when he went to Memphis, he became one half of the Blade Runners before he became the Ultimate Warrior. Well, before Shane Douglas was Shane Douglas, when he first broke out in the independents, he actually ran with the name Troy Orndorff, which was a gimmick name. So he was running that he was the nephew of Paul Orndorff. And when I read that, I thought that was very funny because we just had Travis on. And I always talk about how wrestling is always full circle. There's always a lot of people that go through, like when I was talking about the Russians last episode, and how they all worked different companies, and like there's 3 of them, and 2 of them would work one company, and then one would split off, and then that one would work with the other Russian at another company, and it was all full circle. So I thought when I read that, I thought that was extremely funny that he started off as Orndorff's nephew, Troy. But immediately out of the gate, he was only working for a year or so when he got called up to the WWF just for enhancement work. So he was one of the wrestlers that would go there, get his ass handed to him by the likes of, not a Razor Ramon, but like a Randy Savage, not really Hulk Hogan, but Ricky Steamboat. He had a lot of matches with them. But he did that for a few years. Started that out in '86. Did it for 2 years, then switched to WCW. And WCW was not a better place. I guess it was more experience for him. But he became partners with Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis in reality. And they were called the Dynamic Dudes. And these were guys that were supposed to be pro skateboarders. And there's an interview with Shane Douglas where he talked about how neither one of them knew how to work a skateboard, and the fans seen right through that. And they were supposed to be this big babyface team, and the fans just shit on them because they knew it was just putting on their faces, but none of them knew anything about skateboards or the cool dude life. So that only lasted 2 years as well, and then he went back to the WWF. And the funny thing is Shawn Michaels. There's a big story about how Shawn Michaels got his butt beat by a few Marines one night, and that time period he was still part of the Rockers, and Shane Douglas took Shawn Michaels' spot. So Shane Douglas was part of the Rockers with Marty Jannetty. So I thought that was pretty funny because later on in the WWE, well, let me skip. So that again was just mid card level. Didn't really do anything popular that got him anywhere. So he went back to WCW. And that's when WCW was still part of the NWA. So it was NWA, WCW. And then he started tagging with Steamboat. And they had pretty good runs. And they even won the tag team titles there. But that's when he left WCW, still working for the NWA though. And so December 14th is the date that Eastern Championship Wrestling changed and became ECW thanks to Shane winning the championship. And that's when everything really started to take its place for him. So then he became, you could say he was a one-time NWA heavyweight champion, just for like 30 seconds. But he was a four-time, yeah, he got it. That's the main thing. He was a four-time ECW champion. He was a two-time ECW television champion. When he eventually made it back to the WWF, which was a really shitty gimmick for him again, his best career was in ECW because he eventually returned to, in 95, he returned to the WWF. They renamed him Dean Douglas, and he was like a school teacher, and he was telling all the wrestlers and all of his promos what they were doing wrong and how he would grade them an F. And he would bring out a chalkboard and write down equations on all these wrestlers and everything and do like a report card on them, which, made him a very heelish character. But it was that time that the Clique was kind of born, so you had Kevin Nash, you had Scott Hall, Shawn Michaels, you had Triple H, and he, depending on who you talk to, or what video you listen to, he was either in or out of the Clique. And back in the day, the Clique is what basically ran WWF. If everyone talks about how they hated Shawn Michaels because somehow he always got his way with Vince McMahon, and evidently he bumped heads with Shawn Michaels, and that's what got him booted out again. So he didn't last long, but he returned to ECW, and then went back to WCW. So he was actually in WCW up until almost the time when WWE bought him out. And then he went straight to the independents because he done ran his course through the WWE, and they didn't bring him back. So at that point, he was doing independence until 03 came out and TNA started. Now, TNA started with Jeff Jarrett and his dad, Jerry Jarrett. And a lot of old WCW guys came aboard that WWF or WWE didn't pick up. Because some of the contracts they bought, some of the contracts they didn't. So the ones they didn't, they started bringing them into TNA. And he had a very good career in TNA as well. He didn't do anything like a world champion or anything, but TNA loved to bring in ECW guys, and they would have like ECW reunions and everything like that, and just pay-per-views surrounded by ECW. And of course, TNA eventually folded. Well, actually, it did and it didn't. Jeff Jarrett lost control of his own company, and now it's ran by, since then it's changed hands like 3 times, and it was nonstop action. But then now recently they switched back to TNA. Still nothing to do with Jeff Jarrett though. But his main career, his main moment in his career was that spot when he got awarded the NWA championship and threw it in the trash, like he said, and held up the ECW title. And like I said, there's hundreds and thousands of wrestlers, but only a handful of them that can actually say they created a spot in time that changed the direction of pro wrestling. Like I said, Hogan did it when he beat Iron Sheik, and he started the whole rock and roll wrestling, thing, and it blew up. He did it when he dropped the NWA belt, and now I guess I don't want to put John Cena into this with his big heel turn. I don't think this is a big thing that's gonna rock the world, but there's just certain people that had moments in time that did, and he definitely started a revolution. So I just want to highlight him, and especially since he's going to be at our fan fest, and everyone can come in, meet him, get his autograph, get a picture with him, get told some awesome stories, because they're going to be there for a few hours, and they love to talk to their fans. So I think last episode I started out with the Russians and how one of them's going into the Hall of Fame and they're being inducted by another one. Of course, one of them sadly passed away. But Shane Douglas, I forgot what I was going to say. So what I'm going to do.
That's the reason why you should take the opportunity to see the legends when you can.
Right. Totally true. But I'm going to start a series up until our May show, and I'm just going to highlight one of the guys that is coming. And Shane Douglas I started with the Russians last week. This week, we're doing Shane Douglas. These guys had great moments in time. And just want to highlight it. So, you guys got anything else?
Nope.
I think you covered it.
Perfect. Just want to throw out again, March 29th. Doors open at 4, starts at 5. It's at the Shriners building. Beautiful building, but this is our next show. Everyone's invited. They have cold beer, and they do popcorn and everything else for you guys. So come on down. Then we have our next one, April 5th, back in Belleville. I think this is actually our last show in Belleville, so we're going to blow it out, with the top guns going at each other, and with our own Bobby D versus Kowalski for the classic title. So 2 great shows, and it's only leading up to our May Fest, which is our Fan Fest. You got the Bruiser Brody Battle Memorial. You have the Fan Fest with all the legends. You have the storytelling done on Friday. You have the Hall of Fame on Saturday as well. And then the Pro Wrestling SICW Super Show, basically, that night. So definitely drop by sicw.org if you still need FanFest tickets, or even tickets, not tickets, but to reserve your hotel room. You can do that on that website. Love to come out and see. I'd love for you guys to come out and see us. Do want to do a shout out to all the subscribers, because without you guys, we wouldn't be here. And it's just great that we're still collecting. I know we lost a few last week, but I'm sure it'll just come back strong this week. So shout out to you guys. Thank you for tuning in, watching our stuff, and paying tribute to the classics, the Wrestling at the Chase that Nate puts out. Great stuff. I dropped off some things to him today, so he's got some new stuff he's going to be still posting once we figure out how to do it. But some great things coming in the pipeline. I guess that's about it. So everyone, Nate, stick on. Bobby, you can stick on too if you want. But from everyone at the Squared Rings podcast, thank you and have a good night.
See you.